Let's talk about Canada, often celebrated for its breathtaking landscapes, friendly people, and of course, its iconic maple syrup and love for hockey. But there's so much more to this country than just sweet syrup and winter sports. Canada is also a true automotive powerhouse, playing a crucial role in the global car industry. For over a century, cities like Windsor, Ontario, have been the backbone of North American car manufacturing, shaping the industry's history and future. The Canadian auto industry is deeply intertwined with the US, forming a single complex supply chain that stretches across borders. Car parts cross the border multiple times before a vehicle is finished. Imagine it as a massive cross-border assembly line, with each country adding its own expertise. This seamless cooperation is built on free trade agreements, making North American cars more competitive globally and supporting thousands of jobs. The deal? No tariffs on each other's car parts, allowing factories to operate as if the border barely exists, keeping production efficient and costs down. This arrangement has fueled jobs, prosperity, and entire communities on both sides of the border, creating a shared economic success story. But such stability is fragile. One policy change, one new tariff, or a single political decision can disrupt everything in an instant. When you picture the Canadian auto industry, imagine entire cities and generations whose livelihoods depend on this delicate cross-border harmony, with families building their futures on the promise of steady work. It's a story of shared prosperity and mutual reliance, until someone decides to throw a wrench in the gears, threatening everything that's been built. And that's exactly what happened, sending shockwaves through both nations and putting countless jobs at risk. So, what's a tariff? Think of it as a surprise tax that suddenly makes everything more expensive. When President Trump launched a trade war, Canada's auto sector was caught in the crossfire. The idea, make Canadian cars pricier so Americans buy American. But the industries are partners, not rivals. Slapping tariffs on Canadian auto parts is like sabotaging your own team. The threat of a 25% tariff sent shockwaves through Canada's auto industry. This wasn't just a price hike, it was an existential threat. Factories faced closure, jobs were on the line, and the entire supply chain was suddenly a vulnerability. The rules had changed overnight, and everyone was bracing for impact. The immediate effect? Fear. Deep, paralyzing fear in factory towns. It wasn't just a passing worry, it was a heavy cloud that settled over entire communities, making every day feel uncertain and every paycheck feel at risk. Imagine your entire livelihood tied to a plant that could close because of a decision made far away, in a boardroom or government office you'll never see. The sense of powerlessness was overwhelming. Dinner table conversations shifted from weekend plans to, what if the plant shuts down? Families who once talked about vacations or birthdays now worried about mortgage payments and keeping the lights on. Automakers froze investments, and orders for parts dried up. Suppliers, who depended on steady contracts, suddenly faced empty order books and mounting debts. The whole ecosystem seized up. No one wanted to be left standing when the music stopped. Every link in the chain, from the smallest parts maker to the largest automaker, felt the tension. Economists warned that full tariffs could trigger a recession and wipe out over 160,000 jobs. The ripple effects would reach far beyond the factory floor, touching local businesses, schools, and entire towns. Car sales wobbled as consumer confidence plummeted. Buyers hesitated, unsure if their own jobs would be next, and showrooms grew quieter by the week. Even the threat of tariffs was enough to poison the industry. Plans for expansion were shelved, and every new headline brought fresh anxiety. For workers, it was personal. Their families, their futures, their pride on the line. Generations who had built their lives around these jobs now faced an uncertain tomorrow. They became pawns in a political chess game, facing the loss of stable, middle-class lives. The security they'd worked for was suddenly at risk, and their voices often went unheard. The dream of building something lasting was being dismantled by a policy that misunderstood how modern industry works. Decades of progress and pride were threatened in a matter of months. The squeeze was on, and it was crushing. Hopes, plans, and entire communities felt the pressure closing in. The engine of Canada's economy was sputtering, and the road ahead looked more uncertain than ever before. Nowhere was the anxiety more real than in Windsor, Ontario, the heart of Canadian auto manufacturing. The city's fate is tied to the big three automakers, and its economy rises and falls with the industry. With tariffs looming, Windsor faced the prospect of becoming a ghost town. The Windsor assembly plant, a major employer, was at risk of closure. The domino effect would devastate small businesses, property values, and the community. Local news was filled with anxious workers and business owners. Politicians scrambled for solutions, while union halls buzzed with rumors and fear. Every update from the U.S. was scrutinized for clues about Windsor's fate. The city was under siege, not by an army, but by trade policy. Windsor became the canary in the coal mine for all of Canadian manufacturing. The tariffs threatened to unravel a century of progress and shared history. The future looked bleak, and hope was in short supply. Just as things looked darkest for the Canadian auto industry, an unexpected hero emerged: Stellantis. At a time when uncertainty loomed and hope seemed to be fading, few could have predicted that this company would step up in such a big way. You might not immediately recognize the Stellantis name, but you definitely know their iconic brands: Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and the Chrysler minivans proudly built in Windsor. These vehicles have been a part of Canadian roads and families for generations. The Windsor plant, once a powerful symbol of Canadian auto strength and innovation, was on the brink of closure, especially as the entire industry began shifting rapidly toward electric vehicles and new technology. Everyone expected bad news, maybe even a complete shutdown. Workers, families, and the entire community braced for the worst, fearing the loss of thousands of jobs and a proud legacy. But then, a shock. Stellantis and the Canadian government announced a massive $3.6 billion investment to retool both the Windsor and Brampton plants for electric vehicle production, defying all expectations. Instead of shutting down, they were doubling down, transforming these legacy factories into cutting-edge EV hubs, securing jobs and a future for Canadian manufacturing. This was a total surprise, a powerful vote of confidence in Canada's future and its skilled workforce. The mood shifted from anxiety to celebration almost overnight. It wasn't just about business, it was a declaration that manufacturing in Canada still mattered, and that innovation could happen right here at home. The news spread fast, turning despair into hope. Social media buzzed, and Windsor's streets filled with cautious optimism and pride. In the face of political chaos and economic uncertainty, Stellantis bet on Canada. The narrative changed overnight, rewriting the city's story. The city's fate was no longer sealed. Windsor now had a new sense of purpose and a reason to believe in its future again. A new chapter was about to begin, one filled with hope, innovation, and a renewed commitment to Canadian excellence. So, what did the Stellantis deal mean? It was more than a facelift, it was a transformation. The investment would overhaul Windsor and Brampton for electric vehicle production, shifting from gas engines to batteries and electric motors. But the real game changer? Stellantis and LG Energy Solution announced a massive battery gigafactory in Windsor. Building batteries locally meant a self-contained Canadian EV ecosystem, no more relying on imports for the most critical part. This move secured the future of the plants and created thousands of high-tech jobs. It was a bet on Canada's leadership in the EV supply chain. The decision made the tariff threat less potent and anchored Stellantis' North American operations in Canada. It was about creating new jobs and a new industrial identity for the region. The Stellantis announcement sent ripples of optimism through Windsor and beyond. The conversation shifted from survival to seizing new opportunities. Thousands of jobs were saved and thousands more promised at the battery plant. Other companies in the EV supply chain started eyeing Ontario for investment. The deal signaled, Canada is open for EV business. Governments played a key role, offering incentives and forging a public-private partnership. This became a model for future industrial strategy, building the future, not just protecting the past. For workers, it meant retraining and upskilling for the jobs of tomorrow. Unions focused on securing training for battery and software roles. It was a just transition. Workers weren't left behind, but given a path to the green economy. The Stellantis investment reshaped North American trade. The old model, efficient but fragile, gave way to regional, resilient EV supply chains. It's not about abandoning free trade, but making it smarter and more secure. New trade rules require more car parts to be made in North America to qualify for tariff-free treatment. This incentivizes automakers to build supply chains for batteries and electronics within the continent. Canada is leveraging its skilled labor and critical minerals to move up the value chain. For the US, a strong Canadian auto sector is now an asset, not a threat. The new pact is about building a continental fortress of innovation and manufacturing. So, what does it all mean? Canada's auto industry, once on the brink, has a stunning second act. Windsor is now a blueprint for how old industrial regions can pivot to new technologies. The Stellantis deal didn't just save jobs, it charted a new course for the nation's industrial strategy. The crisis revealed the fragility of global supply chains, but also their resilience. The road ahead is long. EV transition requires investment, retraining, and cooperation. But the foundation is set: regional cooperation and a shared commitment to the electric revolution. Workers are being trained for the jobs of tomorrow, building cars powered by batteries made nearby. This is a story of survival and transformation. Industries are about people, families, and communities. Canada's auto industry stared into the abyss and found a bridge to the future, and that future is electric, integrated, and being built right now in Canada.